she really feels as though she's been through the transition from death to life, from emptiness to fullness, from the ash heap to a seat with princes, and that ties directly into Psalm 113, verse 7. The prayer continues a bit longer. What you may have noticed already is how similar this is to the prayer of Mary in Luke chapter 1, what is called the Magnificat, which is the Latin for magnifies. I magnify, or my heart magnifies the Lord. That's Luke 1, 46 to 55. So the Magnificat of Mary is clearly modeled on Hannah's prayer. She pours out her heart in song, like a number of other characters we have studied in the series, or we will study. People like Miriam and Moses and David and many others. Hannah pours out her heart in song, and then she goes home, while Shmuel, her son, begins his apprenticeship under Eli, the high priest. Later we read in verse 18, "But Samuel was ministering before the Lord, a boy wearing a linen ephod." So basically, he's a little version of the priest, with a little priest's outfit. Each year his mother made him a little robe and took it to him when she went up with her husband to offer the annual sacrifice. Again, probably Passover. Eli would bless Elkanah and his wife, saying, "May the Lord give you children by this woman to take the place of the one she prayed for and gave to the Lord." Then they would go home. And the Lord was gracious to Hannah. He showed her chen, in other words. He was gracious to Hannah. She conceived and gave birth to 3 sons and 2 daughters. I don't believe that's quintuplets. That's probably serial, not simultaneous. Meanwhile, the boy Samuel grew up in the presence of the Lord. She wasn't completely cut off from her son. There was the annual visit, and she ends up having 5 more children. Samuel grows up in the presence of the Lord. 2 times from now, we'll have a podcast focusing on his life. If I were going to sum it all up, she humbly asks God and then humbly keeps her word. How we pray, how we ask God matters. Are we sincere? Do we intend to follow through? Do I intend to do all the great things I pray about or I sing about in church? How we pray really matters. Hannah is an example of honesty, an example of expressiveness, and of integrity, a woman that all women and all men can and should learn from. What do we learn about God? God hears prayer, though sometimes he leaves us waiting a painfully long time. And that's a lesson found in many books of the Bible. Secondly, being a spiritual person, that doesn't mean that you have a guarantee life will be fair, or that more of God's blessings will come your way. In fact, often it seems the opposite is the case. The one who acts more spiritually, in a more dignified and holy manner, is the one who suffers more. God will take care of our children, even when church leadership is not as spiritual as it should be. Are you in that kind of a situation? Samuel still turns out to be a good man, in fact, a godly man, a powerful leader, much more so than Eli and his sons. In other words, we mustn't put our hope in the arm of flesh, but in the arm of the Lord. What do we learn about God? God hears prayer. Yet, spirituality is no guarantee that we'll get what we want, or even that life will be fair. And last, God will take care of our children. And at some point, we who are parents have to release and trust, not demand the perfect situation for our son or daughter, but put our hope in the arm of the Lord.